What's up, everybody? Mr. Dan here, back again with kind of a rant review response to a lot of the criticisms regarding the film Furiosa. Just for context, huge fan of the entire series. Seeing The Road Warrior on TV as a young man in my teens, with watching it with my dad, was like life-changing. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Our local supplement that I think it was called Parade or something, from the Philadelphia Inquirer. I used to read everything, I used to read the TV guide and everything about movies that came with the Sunday paper. Had a big picture of Wes, close up of his face. And I was just like, what is this? I've always loved the entire franchise. I've loved the Mad Max character. Now, by the time Thunderdome came out, I was in high school. I went to see it with some friends, and we were like, yeah, it was pretty good. We did enjoy it. When it came on cable, you bet I watched it again and again and again. Highlight being the actual Thunderdome scene. So I think that film is kind of significant to understanding what was in George Miller's head with the world-building sort of aspect of Furiosa, which is something that he excels at and that he enjoys doing, which is oddly, strangely, maybe almost to his detriment in terms of box office and criticism from fans. As when the camera stops moving, and he, the film becomes more stationary, people get anxious and want the action to continue again, and yet he's also created some really intriguing worlds. Bartertown is pretty fascinating, and in this film, in Furiosa, we got to really see the Bullet Farm and the Citadel, the more inner workings of the Citadel pre-Fury Road, and Gastown, and it was pretty fascinating stuff. It's just that some people prefer the action. Now, in Furiosa, at 2 hours plus, 2 hours, 20 minutes plus, you get all of it. You get action sequences, which are quite lengthy. I mean, long action sequences, but with a longer movie, it does slow down in parts, and you have some of that world building. But let me just review the film briefly first, and then respond to some of the criticism. I just think a lot of the larger channels that are criticizing this film are taking some pot shots at it, and it's just some of it. I get some of it, but some of it bothers me. Okay, going back to post Mad Max Fury Road, which I saw in the theater like the day it came out. I remember thinking, wow, this was amazing. I actually had a thought, and I believe this was like kind of before Furiosa was announced, that wouldn't it be cool if they did like a Planet Terror type of thing where they had like a 90-minute Mad Max film and a 90-minute Furiosa film, and they maybe sort of crisscrossed a little bit, a bit of a tall order as far as box office, and the patience of even diehard fans, and even Planet Terror, I think, didn't really do well in the theater. The films have done better when they were broken up and put on DVD, and of course that also had the added element of the trailers, which have gained a new life of their own, with some of them being made in the films. See my Thanksgiving out of the theater reaction, by the way. But, at the time, I would, of the two, I would have preferred a Mad Max film, and I still feel that way. But once it was announced that they were making a Furiosa film, I just made my peace with it. It wasn't like, I wasn't like in my room punching my pillow. I'm a grown man. I mean, you just get over it, everybody. Calm down. Relax. This is what George Miller wanted to do. George Miller is a very interesting guy and a very unique director, okay? So to try to say that this film is following some Hollywood pattern of girl bosses, which is, I'm still trying to figure out this term, and wokeness is ridiculous. You're taking a square peg, that is George Miller. Sorry, George, I don't know if that's how you want to be described, but you're trying to pound it into a round hole. You're trying to say this is part of some larger pattern. Yes, I do believe there's some things called woke. I mean, there are people who have complained about and actually written serious articles about Saving Private Ryan not having any female actresses in the opening segment. There are people who are complaining that there are too many Japanese actors in the Shogun series. It's ridiculous. It's nonsense. As far as I don't, this girl boss thing I don't quite get. I get what maybe an example of that would be the second Black Friday remake.
Black Friday? What is that? Black Christmas is what I meant.
The first one was okay. The original's the best. I couldn't bring myself to watch the third one because people I trust, not these larger YouTubers, but people I know in the smaller YouTube horror reviewing community, had some things to say about it, and including some female YouTubers who did not like the treatment of men in that film. These are people that I trust on YouTube. So that, I don't care for that nonsense. I don't care. Like, I'm not a fan of like putting genders down. I've never liked it. I don't like bumper stickers or refrigerator magnets that degrade men and call them lazy. I don't like sitcoms that always make the man the idiot. The father. I don't like that at all. And there's some stereotypes about women that I don't like either. Not to get way off topic here, but none of that happens in Furiosa. Okay. This is George Miller's vision. Period. End of story. Think about George Miller. He does not make an assembly line of movies. He's gone 6, 7 years, 8 years at a time without directing any movies. Okay. He's directed several kids' movies. Babe, the talking pig movie. That was like a breath of fresh air. Is it my favorite movie ever? No, it's a kids' movie. It's okay. I'll watch it with my granddaughters, though. I mean, I'm sure we'll enjoy it eventually when they get a little bit older. But what I'm saying is, at the time, my daughters were going through every Disney movie that was coming out post Lion King. All of those. They were eating them up. Okay, I took my daughter to see Mulan in the theater, but on home video they were getting like Hercules and Tarzan. And some of those movies kind of sucked. They were like, it was like a conveyor belt of kids movies. A formulaic production of kids movies. Even The Lion King was a reworking of the Bambi script, wasn't it really? But they just did it really well, and with great animation and great voice acting. Boy, am I off topic. What I'm saying is, George Miller comes out with a kids movie that's like none of that. It's like none of that at all. It has its own tone. That's George Miller. George Miller, it has his own vision. It doesn't always work. Not everything he's ever done is my favorite, but he's not following some kind of Hollywood pattern. Let me give you another example. Liam Neeson criticized pretty heavily for just making like one after another of these sort of action films with a middle-aged star, and people are saying a lot of them are just kind of forgettable. Well, somewhere in there, one or two of them might have been pretty good. I think that one with the snowplow was supposed to be pretty good, and I know my dad enjoyed it. Okay, so sometimes the pattern it's valid to criticize the pattern, but just let's slow down and look at the actual movies, and let's not make the movies themselves into something they're not. So Furiosa is not a girl boss movie. It's not a woke movie. Okay, there are strong male characters in this film. In fact, Tom Burke, who plays Praetorian Jack, who does a great job in the film, is something of a mentor to Furiosa in the film. And I don't think a woke movie would have done that. Also, George Miller allows this movie to take its time, and following the example of Mad Max, especially The Road Warrior. Anya Taylor-Joy actually doesn't have a lot of dialogue, as many people have noted. So she's not giving any speeches. It's just a pretty good story. And I guess I was supposed to somewhere in there review the film. The film is good. I'm not going to really. I guess I just won't go into detail. I'll just address more like the controversy. It's not a reboot. Okay, seeing these videos where people use the wrong terminology really irritates the hell out of me. And yes, and I realize some people have channels that follow box office, follow trends in Hollywood, and are expressing a little bit of Schadenfreude, like a little bit of glee at the demise of Hollywood because they don't like some of the messaging that comes out. I get that, and I think to a degree, there's a place for that, and those channels can do whatever they want. But I just think you need to be a little more accurate and slow down a little bit. The full story will not be written for a few months when the total box office comes in. I saw one article headline that said Garfield was getting ready to claw Furiosa. It's like, well, getting ready to? You don't know that. Let's look at the total box office in a couple weeks. I mean, I think overall part of it is the box office is down. Perhaps it would have been wiser to shoot for like a 95-minute movie. You would have had to cut out a lot, of course, but I think you could have actually found a way to do it. You would not have had as much world building. Maybe just you could have just chosen to make have no gas town scenes or very few bullet farm scenes and just reduce the world building down to significantly. That and obviously trimmed a couple 10 million, 10 or 20 million. That's all off of the budget. But they just didn't go that way, and I enjoyed pretty much every minute of it. Okay. I did feel like the final chapter was a little bit long, the final confrontation, and I do think it's a mistake to show in the trailers Chris Hemsworth on his knees with Furiosa standing over him. I don't have a problem with that scene in the movie. He's the bad guy, and he's great, by the way. And that criticism is ridiculous too. Chris Hemsworth is great in this film. I don't care what else he's done or how you feel about his post-Thor performances. He's great in this. That was a mistake putting that in the trailer. I do feel. So that final chapter in the film is a little overlong to me. Again, because I'm not saying this is a perfect film, okay? But I enjoyed it immensely, and I would just say, hey, just go with your gut. If you want to see this, just go see it. It's not woke, and it's not a girl boss film. I don't know what else to say about it. What are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below, and hopefully we do get another Mad Max film. Maybe they should shoot for like 100 minutes and just go back to roots. By the way, let me address that too. Furiosa and also a large extent Fury Road are products of the time. Like I said in my Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the CGI is here. This is the world, okay? And I did mention in my out of the theater reaction that some of it looked a little, there's one scene in particular that looked a little janky to me, like a little jerky. And I did catch that. Having said that, overall, and I talked about this even before the movie came out when I was reacting to the trailers, cars spinning out, using CGI to make cars spin out, it's not the same. It's not the same. So there's, I'm recognizing that that's all CGI, and that on top of that, there's a few scenes that don't work that well in the film. But, going into it, I knew what I was getting, and that's the world we live in. And my point about this modern generation, I'm watching younger people react to the Road Warrior on YouTube, and they barely even make a reaction when you see these spectacular stunts. They're just like numb to it almost, like, because they've just been bombarded with all these images from the Marvel films and everything, all the over the top action and the CGI, that there's not an appreciation for that. Whereas I remember when I read a review of the Road Warrior, because I couldn't wait to see it once I saw Wes's face on that supplement from the newspaper. The critic, the guy that wrote the review, said he was in a room full of critics, and there's the scene where the one dune buggy goes under the pickup truck, and the guy in the back goes tumbling end over end. He said that people gasped. People were like, "Oh my God! Like, what a stunt!" Like, you know what I mean? They recognized that. They felt that. This younger generation, they don't quite get that. Okay, so that's the world we live in. A bit of a rambling, rantish kind of a review that didn't discuss the plot hardly at all. I'm gonna see if I can get some YouTube buddies to do like a live stream or something where we maybe in a couple weeks, as the dust has settled a little bit. Oh, by the way, speaking of that, yeah, check out some other reviews on YouTube. Check out some of the smaller channels. The Night Watch Zone, the Trash Picture Show. Marty. I always respect what Marty has to say, and I think Marty gave it Well, okay, Marty didn't rate it as highly as I do. I would give it like an 8 or 9 out of 10. If Fury Road was a 9 out of 10, then this would be an 8 out of 10. Very strong rating. I think Marty wasn't quite as high, but you go watch that review for yourself. Because, I fully respect what guys like Marty, what they have to say about these films. The Horror Miser, Monty G, American Werewolf in New Jersey. These are guys that I really respect, and I respect their opinions, and we can agree to disagree on aspects, but they're giving you honest reviews. That's the thing, okay? So go check them out, please. Thank you, and I'll talk to you next time. Later.